This is the Peter Greenwood Show at the Glasgow Film Festival, and to my immediate right, but then you're kind of not immediately to my right. I need to lean forward, and it's a little bit to my right. Anyway, there is a gentleman here who has made a film. Could you tell me your name and your film title, please?
Yes, my name is James J. Robinson, and I'm the writer and director of the Australian-Filipino co-production First Light.
What is First Light? Tell us about it. Where did it come from?
Yeah, First Light is the basic log line of it is it's the story about a nun in the mountains of the Philippines who witnesses something that makes her question whether or not she's done the right thing by dedicating her life to the Catholic Church. In a wider sense, the film is very much about decolonization of the Philippines, and the Catholic Church remains as this last remaining post of Spanish influence that still controls so much of how the Philippines is run in government down to the smaller institutional levels. But the film for me, it was inspired, being Australian and Filipino, trying to find the intersection of those themes and how they overlay in both those countries. It was very much the Australian Religious Discrimination Bill, which was a bill being discussed in Parliament in Australia in about 2021, which would have given any religious institution, whether that be a school or a hospital, the government protection to discriminate against certain groups that they don't believe in. So me being gay and going to a Catholic school would have meant that they could have expelled me just for being gay, and they would have been protected by the government to do so. Luckily, the bill didn't pass, but it was from those discussions in Parliament and the news that this story kind of started coming to me, and then it ended up just being this process of assigning characters to different parts of my life and experience and telling the story through metaphor, because obviously I'm not a nun myself in the mountains of the Philippines.
You could be.
I could be, thank you. That's the best compliment. The film, I guess, is my exploration of my identity and my relationship to Catholicism as a gay man, but doing that through metaphor of these different characters in the mountains of the Philippines.
When it came time to putting all that into a script and saying this is the story, how much did you want to add? Was it important for you to get everything out, or were there kind of limits where you're like, I'm not comfortable with this? What was that? What was that threshold like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's my debut film, and I think something that I see in a lot of debut films a lot of time is just wanting to put every single idea into one film, and so I had to practice so much restraint, which is so hard because I'm and I love a lot of maximalist films, but I also love a lot of slow cinema. But a lot of it was, the first draft was really throwing all of my ideas into the page, and then everything from then onwards was actually just taking things out and trying to make it as restrained as possible. But ultimately, I guess the main sort of thing that I was trying to strike the balance in between and the nuance that I wanted to get was differentiating the fact that there is a very beautiful core ethical compass at the middle of Catholicism, and there are some really beautiful people who practice it in a really restorative way that's beautiful. And then there's the opposite side where politics can get involved and conservative values start being applied to the Catholic teachings. And what I wanted to do in the film was strike the nuance in between those two things. I'm how can I criticize the institution but remain respectful of the actual beauty at the heart of it. So that was the nuance that I wanted to strike, and then as long as I strike that, everything else could kind of just be taken out and restrained. Yeah.
Were there any really painful bits you had to take out? No, I love this, but I can't right now. And what will happen to that material? Is there another script in you for that?
God, yeah, I mean, there was. Honestly, the first iteration of the script, I haven't talked about this very much, but the first iteration of the script was more specific to do with the war on drugs in the Philippines that was happening under our president Duterte, who's now been arrested for war crimes, thank God. But the first iteration of the script was dealing with that very specific topic and how religion tied into it. But I think as the Philippines was progressing, there was just we had a new government, and then there were new problems that were coming up, and I wanted to make it a bit more relevant to the current times, and also make it something that could apply to different countries by being a little bit more broad in its approach. So instead of it being about the war on drugs in the Philippines, it just becomes a wider commentary on corruption in the Philippines in general. And so I think there is another script in me that has something there. But I just already have so many other films that I'm doing at the moment that I'm like, maybe that's one from when I'm a bit older.
You'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'll come back. Yeah.
Everything is secular. Everything will come around again.
Exactly.
I'd like to ask a little bit about something I noticed at the very start of the film. You mentioned your aunt.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
How does your aunt connect to this? Or is that just saying, thank you, auntie? Does this story come from your aunt?
Yeah. Oh my God, thank you for asking this, because I'd love any chance to be able to bring her up. My auntie Norma, she's my mother's auntie, so she's my grandma's sister. She was the person growing up who introduced me to Filipino history. So she was a history teacher, and she was actually my mother's history teacher in Manila when she was growing up. And so growing up, she was the one who kind of taught me about the history of colonization in the Philippines. And she passed away a few years before writing this script. And I don't know, like I read a lot of books, and I think literature is just as much of an inspiration for me when I'm writing scripts as like the film form is as well. And a lot of books that I love, I love when they open with dedications to a specific person. And so I wanted to bring that into my first film, and I was like, if there's someone I'm going to dedicate this to, it's going to be the person who really like gave me the language for this. And yeah, I suppose that's where it came from. And then it also kind of took the pressure off me a little bit. It's like, it's, I guess, like making a first film, it's like, oh, like, what are we doing this for? Like, do we want to just get funding for next films? Like, what's the purpose of making this? And then changing my, like, incentive behind making the film into being a dedication to someone who means so much to me and who passed away, it just took the pressure off a little bit. I was like, this is like it. I feel like ultimately I just want this to be a gift to my auntie, and a dedication to her. And from that point onwards, it just helped me relax into the process a bit.
What has been the reaction to the film, particularly because you do touch on religion? The main characters are nuns.
Yeah.
What has the reaction been like to that? Hopefully positive.
Yeah, I'm really positive in this way that's really kind of shocked me, because, like there is commentary on religion, and there's been so many times in my life when my response to religion there's just been so much anger, and so I wanted to restrain that a little bit in the film and talk about that nuance that I was before, of differentiating those parts of the church that I do admire and the ones that I don't. And we've had a lot of nuns who have seen the film, and they love it. And that was, I spent a lot of time in the mountains with the nuns and making sure that we're doing things authentically, but I was always curious if like there was going to be a reaction to it. But one of our friends in the Philippines, when we were making it, and I was a little bit worried, I was like, oh gosh, like what are like certain people in government and in religion going to think about this? And he was like, if anyone was offended by this, they would have to be someone who's complicit in this style of religion. So it seems like everyone who's come to the film and who's responded to it has actually been able to recognize that there are problems within the church that they are part of, and that's something that they've been trying to themselves work against. So the response has been awesome, and doing different festivals has just been really cool, because seeing the response in different countries has been amazing. The response in Australia was really awesome. Like, I think a lot of people had like a lot of great readings, and they could understand what I was doing from the Australian perspective. We were part of the main competition at Marrakesh last year, and doing it in Morocco, and the audiences there, all their questions were just about morality and about religion and like how do we be moral in this day and age. And then we did Rotterdam, we were doing here in Glasgow, and then so many of the questions are about like technique and like filmmaking style. So the response has been really awesome. And yeah, it's been, obviously don't make these things and try and think too much about what people are going to think about it. And so far it's all just been very nice words, which has been, very heartwarming.
I'd like to ask about a specific bit in the film.
Yeah.
One of the ladies gives one of the nuns a bottle of sparkling water and says, have you ever tried sparkling water? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
So that nun takes it back to the convent and shares it amongst the nuns.
Yeah.
But we never find out their reaction to the sparkling water. Do they like the sparkling water?
Yeah. I think they do. Yeah. Well, they do. I think it's a delicacy to them, because obviously like when you're practicing that pious life, a lot of it is like practicing never, what's the word, I guess, like treating yourself to certain things, and sparkling water to them is this special thing. But that it was a really interesting metaphor for me, the sparkling water, because it's part of what one of my producers calls the Coca-Colanization of the Philippines, which is that like, America we had the Filipino-American War at the turn of the century, at the beginning of the 1900s, and then America kind of left, and then they saved us, in air quotes, from the Japanese in after World War II, and they've kind of propped themselves up as like the saviors of the Philippines, but they actually still have so much control over our mindset, and they've really like instilled this like American mythology into every Filipino. And part of that is that they just like exoticize anything from America. And so this character gives my nun a bottle of sparkling water specifically from America. And the fact that it's from America, it's like, oh my God, it becomes this like beautiful and special thing. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was kind of the inspiration behind the sparkling water and the way that a lot of people just idolize anything that comes from America.
What is next for you and for the film? Are there more festivals for you, and what is the next feature?
Yeah, there's we're waiting to hear back on some of our future festivals over the next few months, which is really exciting. But we'll be playing at a festival in Queensland. We're playing at Sydney Film Festival in June, which I'm really excited about. We go into cinemas on July 9 in Australia, which I'm so excited about, to be in cinemas, to bring a Filipino film in cinemas that's fully in Tagalog in Australia is just that moves me quite a lot. So yeah, we're really excited for that. And then just the rest of this year, we'll just be bouncing around festivals, which is so fun, getting to meet people in all these different places. And as for my next films, I've got 2 in particular. I mean, I have 5 that are written and that I'm like, I want to dive into, but there's 2 which we're moving ahead with development. I'm not allowed to share anything yet. I've gotten in trouble for doing this in the past. Then I've had to go back and be like, well, actually, no, you have to take that out. But yeah, there's 2 films in particular. I can share one of them will be shot entirely in Australia, and the other one will be shot between the Philippines and America. And both of them, it's been, really thrilling to start moving ahead. I made sure that when I made my first film, I had things ready to show other people, that when I'm at all these festivals, I can meet people. And I'm glad that I did, because now things are moving ahead a lot quicker than getting the first one up off the ground.
Where can people find out about you and the film on social media?
Yes, my Instagram is @james.pdf. You'll be able to find everything. I'm a photographer and been doing photography for 10 years before making this film, so my Instagram's a lot of my photography and everything. But you'll be able to keep updated as all my future projects and the rest of the release of First Light over there.
And I will come and say hello to you on Instagram.
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. Good luck with the film. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you for the time. Thank you.